good people of the world. You are listening to Mondopreneur podcast. Mondopreneur is a combination of Mondo, meaning world, and entrepreneur, meaning somebody who is running their own business. So, and we are trying to share stories of different people from all over the world to see how they are dealing with this new situation that simultaneously happened all over the world. This whole project is supported by U.S. Embassy in Serbia. My today's guest comes from Canada, from Toronto. His name is Joshua, and he used to be my teacher on Kansi Academy. He is a young man, but he tried different things during his career. So I hope you're going to enjoy our conversation. So hi, Josh, how are you?
Good. How are you?
As I told you previously, I'm super fine and I'm super excited because we haven't seen each other for more than 3 years now. And everything happened in these 3 years. So we could be chatting for hours before we start this conversation. But yeah, I'm really grateful that I have this opportunity to first get to know you and then to speak to you and share your story. So how are things in Canada? How is in Toronto?
Things are okay in Toronto. I mean, just like everywhere in the world, COVID's, hindered everyone and everyone's economy a little bit. It's interesting to see how different countries have handled the pandemic and, how that's hurt or helped their economies as well as their citizens. And Toronto is gone relatively well compared to some countries, but we're still short in terms of our ability to handle the COVID crisis with the vaccines, vaccine rollout. But different Torontonians, Canadians are taking COVID seriously, which is helping the disease not spread too much to the population. So it's tough, but it's tough everywhere.
Yeah, I know. So can you tell us something more about yourself? So I said that you done different things in your career, but can you tell us something like what is your educational background? How is it connected to what are you doing right now? And are there some interesting facts about you that are also connected to education?
Sure. So I guess I can sort of start and tell you my story of my career and how I ended up being an entrepreneur. You let me know if I'm running on too long, but I got my undergrad degree at a Canadian university called Queen's, which is just a couple hours outside of Toronto. And I did my undergrad degree in business. And through that education, I really learned that I loved marketing, and it was something that I was very passionate about. And I ended up becoming a marketer and a brand manager at Nestle after I graduated my undergrad studies. And when I worked at Nestle, I worked on different areas of the business, but I was in brand management, marketing. I worked on Nescafe, I worked on Coffee Mate, I worked on Kit Kat, and really learned how a large business like Nestle manages a brand, manages a product, and was able to bring food and beverage products to life. And it was a really amazing experience with a great company and great people. But I ended up leaving that industry and doing something completely different because I had the entrepreneurial bug just like you. And I ended up working for a family member in the United States, in the state of South Carolina, in a totally unrelated field. It was in metal distribution. And so we ended up selling aluminum sheet plate and extrusions to different industries, and totally different, but gave me a great learning in terms of sales and in terms of managing customers. And realized that I didn't want to stay in metal distribution for the rest of my life. So I ended up getting my master's and my MBA at another Canadian university called Western, which is on the other side of Toronto, about 2 hours away. And during that experience, I ended up doing a program called Leader, where we as MBA graduates go to different countries around the world and help teach entrepreneurs different business skills that we learned during our program. And that's where I met you and had an amazing time in Serbia and in Belgrade. And, it was so great to learn about the culture there and the experience. But after, being going through that process and knowing that I wanted to be an entrepreneur myself, I ended up starting my own business. And we started it in 2017, or I guess in 2018, January 2018. And it's been a few years going about it. But I got my passion, and I'll tell you about my business in a second, but I got my passion through it because during my time in South Carolina and when I was working at Nestle, I ended up getting into triathlons, which is a sport where you do some swimming, biking, and running. And I ended up competing in the long distance format, which was called an Ironman format, where you swim 4 kilometers, you bike 180 kilometers, and then you run a marathon all in one day. And during that time,
sorry to interrupt you, but this sounds like being an entrepreneur. Like swimming for 4 kilometers, then running, then.
It's very much about persistence, and even the training in it, because you train every single day in your different sport, and you're going these long distances, and you have some days you have up days, some days you have down days. But the important part is you keep on going. And as an entrepreneur, if you can keep on going through the headaches, through the pains, hopefully you'll come out on the other side as, successful in some way, whether it's, you've learned something along the way that's going to help you with your career as you go forward, or you've succeeded and you have a great business. And so, doing an Ironman really taught me a lot about, perseverance, but, the other thing that it taught me was how much I hated protein drinks and the supplements and the health beverages that were on the market in North America, which is a huge thing, is having and consuming the right supplements to help you, perform better. And I know that's not a huge part of, training and athletics in Serbia. I don't know if that's changed in the few years that I've been there, but it's very large in North America. And, most of these protein drinks, are thick, grainy, chalky, didn't taste great. And my business partner, who I met during my MBA, also hated protein drinks. He was a competitive squash player. He ended up placing 3rd in doubles nationals a few years ago in Canada. And we complained about, drinking protein drinks. And when we were at school, we'd go to the gym in the morning and we'd go work out, and we'd have a protein drink in one hand, we'd have our coffee in the other, we'd have our gym bag on one arm and our work bag on the other as we hustled across campus to get to class. And we hated drinking the protein drinks, and the coffee we wouldn't drink until it was cold because we were still warm from our workout. And it was just this pain point in our lives that we were trying to we would gripe about and complain about, and we didn't know what to do to change it. And it wasn't until the end of the MBA program where my business partner was working out in the UK. He had a friend's wedding out there, and so he went to London for the wedding, and he was working out in the morning, and he saw this beverage. It had protein in it, it had coffee in it, but it didn't taste good. It had bad ingredients, and it had a terrible brand name, but he loved the idea. And so he knew that I had worked at Nestle bringing food and beverage products to life. So he came to me and some other friends and back in Canada and said, what can we do about making a better protein drink around this idea of protein in coffee? And so we ended up working on, developing a new beverage that was based around protein and coffee, and we came up with Brüst. So it's a protein beverage with cold brew coffee with 20 grams of high quality New Zealand grass-fed protein. And it's sort of perfect for, a quick pre-workout boost or a post-workout recovery drink. And consumers use it as a quick breakfast in the morning if they're in a rush, or even a midday snack for some healthy energy. So we launched Brüst in 2018, but it was a culmination of, my experiences, unexpectedly working at Nestle in food and beverage, moving down to South Carolina and doing Ironman triathlons, that sort of led me to this business. So you never know where the world will take you.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. I remember when you launched this product, because it was basically half a year after we met. And I was like, I don't like protein drinks, but I do really like to drink coffee. And I was like, I would like to try this. Like, I would really like to try this Josh's coffee. I don't know why. I like the design of the packaging. And how did you choose the name? For me, it sounds more of a German than of an Italian. People like to connect coffee with Italy, and your brand name for me with those 2 dots, it sounds like a German. How did you came up with the name?
So I came up with the name because it's just a combination of two words, or a combination of words. It's cold brew coffee with a boost of protein. So it's the brew and boost together that sort of is combining into one word. And for us, it was important for us to have a unique name, something that was different, that sounded different. And in North America, at least, the umlaut just sort of screams as something European and interesting and different. And so it's not, it's not in, our normal writing to have an umlaut, but it does sort of bring about some sort of sense of quality that we wanted to communicate to consumers. Mm-hmm. So we come up with the name because it was unique, combined, the cold brew, which is the coffee, and the protein as well.
Perfect. I'm joking, of course. Because when something sounds like German, for me, it's kind of a respectable product, because everything that comes from Germany is of a high quality. So it was a small joke. How do you develop a new product? How do you do that? What are the steps? I'm asking you just what are the steps? Okay, you have the idea, but how do you how that idea comes to life?
So for us, we used an expert. So mm-hmm. I'm not a food scientist. I don't know how to put food products together. I can come up with creative ideas, but I don't know the science behind it. And so for us, it was important to work with a great food scientist. So we found one that wanted to work with us, and we were able to develop our original product with her expertise. So we gave her direction in terms of what we wanted this product to be like, in terms of taste, in terms of ingredients, in terms of the overall sense and idea of it. And then she took her knowledge of what she knew about the industry and helped us develop a great product. In terms of moving on from this, we have a base of understanding of how our product is currently made. And so as we continue to develop new products, we use that base to understand what consumers want, and then make products for them. So our first product had only 120 calories, but 7 grams of cane sugar in it. And we got a lot of feedback from consumers that some wanted a much more bold coffee. So something that's mm-hmm. rich and strong and black. And we had feedback from some consumers they didn't want any sugar, because they wanted just a black tasting coffee. And so original SKU is slightly sweet, slightly creamy, but our second SKU is much more bold and rich. It has a rich coffee taste, and it doesn't have any sugar in it. So in terms of development, one, it's having a sense of what you're doing and getting the right experts around you to help you develop it. But the other sense is listening to customers and understanding what they want from your product. What feedback do they have for you to help improve it, or create new flavors, or create new products that they'll love.
Mm-hmm. How many flavors do you have of your coffee? Or is there
right
just
now,
one?
We just have 2. So we just mm-hmm. have the dark roast and the light roast right now, but we have a lot of products in the works, and hopefully those will be out soon. Mm-hmm. So we're just waiting for the right time to launch them.
Perfect. How do you market protein coffee? How do you do that? Where do you go to market, or can you sell it in every shop in the country, or do you need to go to some specialized shops?
So we like to be like sort of omni-channel, so mm-hmm. everywhere that we can be. So we like to say we're sort of at the intersection of protein drinks and energy drinks. So mm-hmm. in the energy drink category, you have companies like Red Bull or Monster Energy, or you also have your ready-to-drink coffee beverages as well, and sort of in that category, or 5 Hour Energy. So I don't know which one of these products have made their way to Serbia, but there's a lot of drinks on the market that add energy to people's lives in North America. And then in terms of protein drinks, there's also several large protein drinks in the market as well, mostly distributed by Coke and Pepsi, big, strong, big, huge consumer packaged goods companies. So we sort of are playing at the intersection between the two. And for us, we like to define ourselves as healthy energy. So you get the caffeine from coffee, but also the sustained energy of the protein as well. And so with any other energy drink, it's about having, protein drink is about having a healthy snack or a healthy source of energy. And so we want to be anywhere where a consumer is looking for healthy energy. So whether that's in an office tower and they have a cafeteria where they're looking for a midday snack, or it's at a gym where somebody wants some energy before they work out, or wants a recovery drink after they work out. Or in a grocery store when they're buying food for the week and they're thinking, oh, I'm gonna be in a rush on Wednesday or Thursday because I have early meetings, or I have kids and I know I want something to help me out in the morning. So for us, it's about being everywhere and anywhere we can be, where customers will want sort of that healthy energy. So in terms of our distribution, it's omni-channel, and we're also online now, which is definitely helpful with COVID as well.
Just a few more questions, and then we will continue with some other topics. Is it possible for me, like I'm a total beginner, I don't know nothing about the food and beverages, and is it possible for me to start a business with coffee drinks and to actually succeed without knowing anything about how the business should be run? Is it possible, or is it just a Hollywood story? We started from the garage, and after a year we are a big international company.
I think anybody can succeed in entrepreneurship. Obviously, you need some skills to bring to the table, but it's not necessarily one skill. You need to have many skills, or you need to surround yourself with people with many skills. And so, if you're an amazing pasta maker, that's a skill that you have, but you might want to surround yourself with people who can help you deliver the product to grocery stores around the country, or someone who can help spread the word about it. So as an entrepreneur, it's all about problem solving. So what's the problem that you're solving? For us, it was, this beverage doesn't taste good. How can we make a better beverage? And so we hired, a food scientist to help us. But, we came up with the idea, we came up with the distribution, we came up with the packaging, we came up with, the marketing initiatives, and we did the sales. And so those were the skills that we brought to the table, not necessarily that exact skill of, mixing the ingredients together. So in entrepreneurship, I think it's really important to, surround yourself with great people, surround yourself with people who bring other skills, and finding out, where do you lack skills, or where are your weaknesses, so you can get other people to help you out. So whether it's someone that you're paying to help you, or somebody that, as an entrepreneur, you have to be creative in terms of, how you get things done, because you don't always have, $1 million in the bank, like a large company does, that they can easily pay for things. So you have to be more creative about how you come up with solutions. So I think depending on, what you're trying to do as an entrepreneur, you can easily do it without any, a specific skill set, but you want to be able to have a skill set of something that you're driving and using that to your advantage.
Like a source of energy for the future. How did this COVID situation change your business? Did it affect it in any way, or no?
Yeah, no, it changed it a lot. So as we sort of talked about before, our distribution totally changed. So we were in office towers in Toronto. We were in gyms in Toronto. We were in universities in Toronto. And as COVID was sort of spiking in March, April in Canada, all those areas of our country sort of shut down. Downtown office towers, nobody was going to anymore. Gyms were closed by the government. University campuses were closed by the government as well. And so that whole portion of our business sort of completely disappeared overnight. But another portion of our business, grew a little bit. Our e-commerce business, direct-to-consumer business. So as consumers were spending more time at home, they were focusing on ordering products online, and it gave us an opportunity to directly sell our products to them instead of through a middleman and through a distribution network. We were able to sell it directly online to our consumers. So, with one hand, we had some stuff taken away, but on the other hand, we had some growth as well. So it's been tough, and I think everybody who's an entrepreneur has battled a little bit with the changes that we've gone through, but we're surviving, and we're trying to make the best of a not great situation.
Did this time during last year, did it give you an opportunity to think of a new product? Like, okay, so our lives are going to change, definitely, from now on. We are going to spend more time indoors. We are probably going to use products that are healthier or from the healthier side of the product. So did you came up with some new products?
For us, we took the time to look at our formulations, look at what we're doing, what consumers want, and we actually brought to market our dark roast during COVID. So our original goal was just to continue to expand with our light roast. But because of the issues that we had, we decided to bring that second SKU to market. But I think with any time where there's change and there's disruption in society, that's where great entrepreneurs come from. Because when change happens, there's problem solving that needs to happen, and entrepreneurs are the ones who look at those problems and try and solve them. So for me personally, I haven't come up with any new creative ideas in terms of big solutions. But I know times like this is when large businesses with creative solutions come up and change, because consumers who are in society are now suffering from that problem and want that solution, and entrepreneurs are looking and providing solutions for people. When you look at the 2008 financial crisis that affected a lot of the Western world, lots of companies came out of that, whether it was Airbnb and I believe Uber as well. Individuals who took that time when things were shifting and people were changing careers to come up with creative solutions. And look how large they've grown over the last decade or so. So whether you're in Serbia, whether you're in North America or in Canada, there's always an opportunity during a time of turmoil to look for where people are struggling and how can you help them out and be an entrepreneur and resolve a problem in society.
I agree. I really
sorry.
agree
So I don't have a solution for you. So
no, because I know many people that I spoke to either in this podcast or privately in my free time. They had a lot of free time during the last year, and some of them actually came to some great ideas to start their business or to start offering their services, because they actually had time to sit and think. Sometimes when you work, you don't have time to rethink some old ideas or to think of some new ideas. But they had time and they came to some perfect ideas. So that's why I ask you, how did you spend actually your last year? I mean, I was trying to just manage the work. I didn't have that free time. For me, I didn't have that free time. But I was just asking you, did you have that free time to rethink some old ideas, let's say?
Well, I think the thing that allowed us to do is think about things differently. And as everything sort of shifted in the market, our thought process sort of went from, okay, we're doing things traditionally, this is how we operate, to, how can we be more creative with some of our solutions? Are we able to do things that are less expensive, that have higher ROI, and are people willing to work with us in different ways than they used to? Before the pandemic, financial compensation was huge for working with people who are brand ambassadors or influencers, on social media. But now, because of how everything's changed, people who are on social media, who are influencers, are willing to be more creative with solutions, and it allows us to work with people differently, which I think is really interesting. So I think for us, it's been figuring out what are creative solutions that we can work with different partners, whether it's other brands or individuals who are fans of the product, to help spread the word and bring awareness of Brüst.
Nice. So do you use local ingredients for your product, or do you have to import them? Okay, you have to import coffee, but are you dependent on imported ingredients or packaging, or can you find that in Toronto or in Canada?
So most of our ingredients are sourced from different distributors. So we don't procure anything directly from the manufacturer. So we use a distribution network that brings product into Canada or produces it themselves, and we purchase it from them. So not all our ingredients are directly from from Toronto or Canada. We use New Zealand grass-fed protein because of their high quality of dairy-based protein. And our cold brew coffee, obviously the beans don't come from Canada. We can't grow those here, so we get hand picked Arabica beans from Brazil and from South America. So we try and find the right partners to help us get the highest quality ingredients that we can use in our product. But we do produce in Canada and have a manufacturing partner just outside of Toronto that helps us produce.
But did you have a problem during pandemic to just find the ingredients that you need for maintaining production? Because sorry.
Yeah,
Continue.
no, I know a lot of companies have had issues with that. In terms of our production runs, we're not producing every day or every week, so we sort of batch produce, and so it gave us some time to figure out timeline in terms of when we might be able to produce. Because we work with really large distributors of our ingredients, their business wasn't shut down. So the Canadian government, sort of left food and beverages as an industry that would continue operating no matter what, as it was an essential industry. So we didn't have the major effects that a lot of other businesses had in terms of the supply chain. We also weren't producing right when things were kicking off with COVID. So thankfully, we weren't running into this scenario where we couldn't get our ingredients, but we have some great partners who manage our supply chains well, so that didn't affect us too bad.
Recently, I heard about the term survival mode. I haven't heard that term before because I probably didn't had the chance to like the last year. I didn't need to think about survival mode. So, do you have a survival mode?
I mean, I think so. I think everybody, there has, the natural fight or flight in them. And,
no, but this is in terms of business, not in my everyday life, but in terms of business. Like survival mode is, I don't know, we are just paying our employees. We are not paying ourselves salary. So do you have any kind? I'm not that big company to think about survival mode, but do you think about those kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think when when we lost our business in office towers and gyms and universities, you sort of think, okay, where do we need to spend money? How are we gonna sort of preserve our funds till we get out of this COVID situation? One of our investors had sent us an email and said, guys, save your capital as much as you can to get through this, because as you come out of COVID, there's going to be an opportunity, but you don't want to, waste all your money during this period where you're not going to get a great return. So, for us, it was, how do we limit some of our expenses over the next, 6-12 months so that, as we come out of COVID, we still have the capital for us to be able to grow and succeed. So that's sort of how we handled that sort of survival during the heart of COVID.
Oh, nice. Can you tell us something about the state of entrepreneurship in Canada or in North America? When I wrote to you an email, I told you that here in Balkan region, we are still on that low level of entrepreneurial, spirit or entrepreneurship as a movement or as a part of economy. So what's the state of entrepreneurship in North America? Like, how, if you're a startup, how much money can you get to start your business? Like here in Serbia, they can offer you, 1,000 or 2,000 euros, and you can basically not do anything with that. It just, it's nothing. It's not covering any costs. So how does it look like in North America?
I think the government giving you a few thousand euros is pretty good. In North America, there's a lot of support, but it's not necessarily through funding. I know Canada did a program a little while ago to give some people a living wage, so they could do whatever they want and promote, entrepreneurial projects with that. But that's not widespread at all. But there are different accelerators that are run through different universities or independently that help entrepreneurs get started. And some of them provide funding, some of them provide teaching, some of them just provide, support for entrepreneurs who want to grow and get into a certain industry. But I think the Canadian society supports entrepreneurs. They want entrepreneurs to succeed. The government wants entrepreneurs to succeed, but there just isn't necessarily tons of free money out there given to entrepreneurs. So there are grants, there are programs where you can get some money, but it's not a free for all by any means. I know for us, we were lucky to get accepted into my university's accelerator, which gave us a good amount of money to start our business, which we were really fortunate to receive. And they didn't take anything in return, so it was a really friendly experience in terms of working at that accelerator. So for us, I think entrepreneurship is strong. I think it's very encouraged, but there's always more that society can do and governments can do to support entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm. That's nice to hear, because sometimes I think that entrepreneurship or the sense of entrepreneurship that we have here comes from the Western part of the world. And when we look at those case studies, or when we look at the examples that come from the West, it's always, for me, it seems so easy for them to succeed. Like they are born with some set of skills needed to be entrepreneur, while we here have to learn like what is a business plan and how to write a business plan. So thank you for the answer.
I think it's tough if no one around you is an entrepreneur and you don't know a lot of entrepreneurs, and everybody goes and works at large businesses. Your mindset is, I can't be an entrepreneur. I don't know how to be an entrepreneur. My dad ran his own business. My grandfather ran his own business. My great grandmother started a bakery, ages ago. And up until several years ago, I had a cousin who is still operating it. So if you're surrounded by entrepreneurial people, you sort of understand you just need to go out and do it, and it's not necessarily as much of a mental hindrance as it would be if you only know people who worked at other companies. But I think if you have an idea where you're going to solve a problem for other people and they're willing to pay for that solution, that's all entrepreneurial. That's what entrepreneurism is about. It's just solving problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. Now I know that. When we first met, I didn't know anything about running business or entrepreneurial spirit. How did your government help small scale businesses or medium scale businesses to survive this last year? In Serbia, we had some kind of incentives. We had some kind of a help from the government. But I know that like Estonia, their government was, it's your business, it's your problem, we cannot help you. What was the situation in Canada?
It's been interesting for businesses like mine. We haven't gotten any help, unfortunately. So
why? Why didn't you get any help?
So the government's been focused very much on a certain type of business. So for us, the way we set up our business was to be variable cost based and not very fixed cost based. So we don't have our own manufacturing equipment. We don't have a rent that we pay. We were already working from home prior to this. So we didn't have any long-term contracts or long-term bills, which allowed us to be very nimble. And we started our business strategically that way. So the government has helped companies, but helped companies that have large fixed costs. And so because we don't have that large fixed cost base, we haven't received that funding from the government. So it's been actually pretty frustrating, even though we've been impacted heavily by COVID. A business that invested in machinery was helped a lot more than a business that wasn't. And so because of those differences, we haven't received any of that government help. And really, I do understand, how governments sort of make these broad rules and try and help most people all at once. What is one broad rule that we can help a lot of people with? And by doing that, you're able to help a lot of people, but there's also people who companies that slip through the cracks. So like ours. So we could have used a hand up during this tough time, just like a lot of other businesses. But we haven't received it, unfortunately.
Here it was same for everyone, for every company. I don't know. I mean, the companies that have many employees, they probably had or great equipment or something like that. I think that they got worse than some other companies or some other sectors. What about the food industry? Well, you are somewhere in the food and beverages industry.
Yep.
So what happened with food industry in North America? Here in Serbia, everything exploded. Small producers, they became like national heroes at one moment.
That's awesome. No, it's great to hear that, that food companies in Serbia are doing great, and and people who work hard every day to provide great quality products are getting recognized for what they're doing. Canada has been interesting. So large retailers in Canada were really focused on the core of the business. So you got meat, you got eggs, you got milk, you got vegetables, you got fruit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the flour. So the core of grocery did incredibly well, and grocery was the stores were focused on it, the consumers were focused on it, the transportation and distribution industry was focused on it. We're not a product that's at the core of grocery, and so we didn't get noticed as well. So unfortunately, because of where we are in store, because of what else was going on, grocery store managers just weren't as concerned with our products as were other products, which once again I totally understand. And when you're facing a battle, you've got to figure out different solutions and how to problem solve it. So for us, it pushing product online and going direct to consumer was one solution that we had.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I know similar thing happened here, like. Those courier services, they also exploded, not just the food producers, but the delivery service also. I don't know. I think that they increased their profit for about 1,000 times. And I know that we still have a problem we don't have enough delivery services here. And food industry just went up like who knows how many times.
And I'm sure there's been some creative solutions there that people are problem solving and trying to come up with different solutions that and if you can solve a problem like that where there's a problem with food delivery in Serbia or in Belgrade, you're being an entrepreneur if you're able to provide a service that you can help people out during this time.
I think that there are some companies or some startups that are similar to Glovo and Volt, and they are some of those delivery services, but they want to be like social enterprises and try to find employees in harder employment groups of people or whatever. So something is happening. Can you tell us how this whole situation affected you personally? Not you like a businessman, but you as a person. I know that you like to be outdoors. I know that you train to be an Ironman, so you definitely like to train and go to the nature. How this affected you? Did it cause any problems to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's caused problems for everyone, but for me personally, I being in an apartment in Toronto, it's not a lot of space. I'm sure a lot of people are suffering from the same thing, where you have 600 square feet, 500 square feet or less, and you're sort of stuck there all day without going outside or doing anything. And what it sort of taught me was like I need to be outside for like 30 minutes to an hour a day, just to breathe the fresh air, to go on a walk, to be outside. And I think that's something that I didn't realize that I needed for me to mentally feel good or mentally feel comfortable with myself. And that's something that's going to stay with me for the rest of my life, I think, is that, taking the time for myself to go for, a 30-minute to an hour walk, listen to a podcast, talk to a friend, or just be by myself and go outside and walk. And I think when you're in a tough situation, you sort of realize, what do you need to do to stay mentally healthy? And, that could be, doing some small exercises inside. It could be going for a walk. It could be eating healthier. But you sort of understand, what are those key things that you need to stay healthy? And hopefully I and everybody else who has figured out those things for them will be able to continue to do those things outside of the pandemic.
Okay. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
Thank you. This was we came to the end of our conversation. So I just really want to thank you. I think that your story is very inspiring, and you actually showed us some of the steps how to develop a new product and offer it to the market. So hopefully your business is going to continue to grow. And maybe some next time when we speak, you are going to have distribution here in Europe. Who knows?
I hope so. Well, thank you so much, Sonia. It's so great to see how great you're doing. And, I love catching up with old friends. And thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you. Good people of the world, you were listening to Mondopreneur podcast. Our guest was Josh from Toronto, from Canada. If you like, you can always follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and you can subscribe for our YouTube channel. Just type #Mondopreneur. Stay good and stay in good health, and see you in a week.